We are continuing on with our art series, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
My name is Danielle Glosser, and I'm an artist advisor based out of Washington, D.C. I help artists with their business development.
Okay, what does that mean? When you tell them you help them with their artist development, for the people out there who are like, I'm an artist, I need developing, what does that mean?
So basically, I focus on the business side of a visual artist's practice. So I assess what they're doing and not doing in order to help them reach their goals.
And do you work with Maryland artists as well?
Yes, in fact, I went through my roster, and about 10% of my clients are in Montgomery County.
Now that's wonderful. We love to hear that. Okay, so tell me some of the unique challenges that artists face and that you help them work through.
Well, there are many.
I bet, right?
I would say that networking is a challenge for most artists. Most artists work alone, and some tend to isolate themselves versus get out to different events to meet other artists or meet art professionals or other community members. Clearly, supporting themselves just on their artwork can be a challenge, so I often work with folks to think of different revenue streams as well. And studio space is a huge challenge in our community.
Yeah. You talked about community, and so I just want to expand on that a little bit. As a community media center, we're all about education and engagement. Where does community come into play for artists who often, my father was a visual artist, and I have his entire collection, and you spend a lot of time alone in a studio creating, but community is very important, I would imagine. How do you help encourage them, and what does community to you mean in the art community?
So to me, it's really everything, because I don't think that people function very well by themselves. I mean, look what COVID did to a lot of folks. So I encourage folks, if they, for example, went to a MFA program, to network with their classmates, because that's a lot of people that they can be in touch with to help them propel their own art career. If they belong to any other kind of groups, athletic groups or other community groups, then I encourage them to dig deeper with those connections in order to help their art practice grow. And likewise, even with, if they have a day job, to involve that network to really help them expand their art practice into different venues.
You talked about a day job, so I'm curious, how many of these artists that you represent are doing this full-time, would you say, and how many are doing a part-time job or a full-time job even, and they're doing this on the side? Because we've spoken to artists on both sides of the spectrum. I'm just curious to know, from your perspective of your roster, how many of them are working full-time, would you think, and how many of them have to have a gig on the side? Or not even have to, choose to have a gig on the side.
Right. Definitely most. I mean, I don't have an exact count, but I would guess probably 80% of my clients have another means to make money. But those that are full-time artists, they are really hustling to get grant money, to get fellowships. They might be seeking residencies as well. So even though they are working on their practice full-time, probably half the time is spent on the business end.
Right. So this series is sponsored in part by the Maryland State Arts Council. I want to throw that out there, and they have grants available as well. Does it come naturally to them, or is that your job to try to help them figure out where the grants are and how to go after the money?
So I actually don't do that type of research for them, and some folks I actually tell them they probably should not pursue grants. It just depends on their skill set, it depends on their goals and their network. So for example, if someone tells me they hate to write and they have ADD, then we're probably not going to have them write a grant. But I will then speak with them about who else in your network might be able to assist you. So one client of mine years ago, I asked him, why aren't you pursuing grant money? And he said, because I'm dyslexic. And I said, well, let's think through who you might know that could be helpful. And he said, well, my wife's an attorney. And I said, okay, I think she can help us out.
I think she can write.
Right. Right. So he was actually a Maryland-based artist, and he did then go ahead and seek her assistance in submitting some applications.
What are some, you talked about a little earlier, other streams of income. Where do artists land as they're trying to figure out what are the other ways that I can make money? I would imagine festivals would be one, right? Showing your work as a festival. Are there other areas and other ways that they can earn money through their arts on the side?
Well, sure, they can do all sorts of things in terms of selling their art. I mean, social media can be huge for some folks if they really tap into doing reels or on TikTok, if they show their process and really follow up with folks and answer their questions and their DMs and such. Sure, doing festivals can be helpful, but that's often expensive. You know, you have to buy a tent and stay there for 4 days, and you know, there's usually a fee to participate unless it's a juried show, so that can get expensive or complicated. But participating in exhibitions, which often does have a fee to apply, it could be, you know, $25, $35 or so, but having the opportunity just to show the work in different nonprofit spaces in around town, or submitting for other juried shows that do not require a fee for prizes, for example, are ways to also share their work.
It's interesting you brought that up. When I was working at Walt Disney World in Florida, I helped produce a 250 juried art festival. So yeah,
wow.
Can you imagine? It's Disney, right? So we had to do everything overnight because the guests can't see the magic happen. So we had to do it in the middle of the night so that when the guests got up, ta-da! All of a sudden, all of these tents just showed up out of nowhere of all of these artists because you can't let them see the magic in progress. Social media, you brought up social media. So it kind of runs the gamut in the people that I've talked to with folks who really understand the power of social media. We found out about you through social media, through Instagram. So the people who understand, I think everyone sort of understands social media and the power that it has, but not necessarily that that's part of their job as a marketer to market their craft. So what do you say, because that's pushing some folks outside of their comfort zone oftentimes. What would you say to some of them? How would you encourage them to use it or not use it?
Well, I think it depends on, again, what the artist's goal is, but I do encourage everyone at least to keep a toe in that water because it is participating in that scene. And even if you don't want to do it every day, all day, like some people do, I think to have a presence is important. Now, I have a lot of clients with mental health issues, and it causes them great anxiety and stress.
Really?
So in that case, we talk about maybe outsourcing it, if they can afford that, or if there's someone else in their world that can just post once a week for them, or they come up with strategies just to do it that one time a week and then turn it off. But for some that really master it, it can be phenomenal. In fact, I have one client who's a tremendous performance artist, and I have told her for years, if you did video of your work, you will explode. And all of a sudden, she started doing video like a month ago, and she has like 10,000 new followers because her work is that powerful.
And okay, so 2 questions. First, if someone wants your services, how do they even go about finding someone who does what you do what you do? That's the first one. The second one is, what about people who want to do what you do?
Okay, so first off, I'm on Instagram at Client Raiser.
I like that, Client Raiser.
Thank you. Client Raiser, bringing business to artists.
There you go. I like it.
So folks find me through social media, or I do workshops in the community, and I do get a lot of referrals. So if someone was to go to my website, and they're in the visual arts scene in DC, Maryland, or Virginia, they probably see some artists they know that I work with, because I have about 250 clients now.
Wow, Danielle.
Yeah.
And by the way, I love your name, Danielle. Wow, that's a lot. 250's a lot.
Yes, I've been doing this almost 10 years, and I think there's probably only about 20 of us in the country that do this type of work. What makes my services different is that I only work one-on-one with artists, because I really believe that I have to have a great understanding of them and their art and how they are wired in order to best assess their practice and give them action items. while others, artist advisors, for example, do videos and say, for X amount of money you can watch my videos, and they might have a one-off session, but I just have very intimate relationships with my clients, and that's how I understand what they're trying to accomplish and how I'm best able to help them.
And for somebody who wants to do what you do, what would you, young person watching right now, listening to you going, I'm not an artist, but I would really like to work with artists and I want to do that. Where do they start? What skill sets do they need?
Well, my background's actually social justice work, so I moved to DC to study race issues, and I lifted my skill set from that work with the nonprofit world. I worked at the White House as well as the private sector, and focused now on project management, research, writing. And so I think to gain experience in another sector would be beneficial, or a different part of the art world, for example, maybe in a museum or a gallery. So some folks come to me and they really appreciate that I'm not an artist and that I was not involved in the art world, where others, I think, perhaps wish I was with a gallery at some point or something. So it's a mixed bag, but I definitely think you have to have a solid skill set in the business world to be able to assist anyone else, not just an artist, but anyone else with their business development.
I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about technology. How has AI and the advent of technology impacted your clients and then your work as well that you're doing?
Well, that's a big hot topic, and I think it's still just evolving right now. I don't think that we even know for sure where it's going, but folks are definitely aware and keeping their eyes peeled, because it's deeply going to affect artists depending on if there are laws that come out about rights around these issues. So it's a hot topic right now.
I bet. What about multimedia? Do you find, we were speaking to an artist not too long. No, you don't know. I'm going to tell you. We were speaking to an artist not too long ago about she's a muralist, and the way she's using projection and the way she is using multimedia to get not just to get the word out about what she does, but as she projects. For instance, one of the people we talked to had an entire exhibit, and it was all projection. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. You don't have to go hang your paintings. It takes. I don't know if that's good or bad, and I'm not judging either way, but how do you deal with that portion of the technology and helping the artists, if they want, incorporate it into their work?
So that's a category that can fall under time-based art, and people do use video, people do use projection, and I focus on the business front, so that's more on the art front. Mm-hmm. So that's really up to them to figure out. Now, if someone came to me asking for advice, which actually just happened yesterday, someone wanted to learn more about video, so I connected one of my clients to another client, and I think that's what's great about working with ClientRaiser is I have such an extended network that really, if anyone needed anything regarding the arts, I'd have someone to direct them to. Mm-hmm. It's rare I am at a loss of who can help an artist with any specific task, but that is truly on the art front about how they're going to weave that kind of technology into their practice.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever help coaching them through the media, like doing what we're doing? Because it's not a natural thing for them to sit down with a mic on their face and have somebody ask questions. Do you coach them through that, or is it someone else you would partner them with if they wanted to learn the media side of it?
No, I definitely work with them in terms of their artist statement, which encapsulates basically everything about the art practice. It should talk about the process and their materials and what inspires them. And so I really believe in coming up with a solid statement, because that forms the roots of the practice, which then everything should flourish and become much easier from there. Mm-hmm. So even an elevator pitch, like I tell folks to highlight the golden nuggets of their artist statement, and that's what they should memorize, just a couple sentences. Right. So when they meet someone, they don't just say, I'm an artist, right, because no one knows what that means. Are you a writer? Are you an actor? They don't know what kind of work you do. So I do work with people for if they want some assistance with how to approach an art talk, or if they have an important meeting coming up with a curator, or if they have an interview for a particular grant. So I do work with them on that.
Describe your ideal client.
Anyone that considers themselves a professional artist and is kind.
Oh, I love that.
I do not discriminate against anyone based on their artwork. It's all about, do you have a practice in place that you want to enhance? And I do kind of screen people in my quote-unquote complimentary sessions, because if you're difficult within the first 15 minutes I meet you, then I'm probably going to say, I don't think we're the best fit. But that literally happens like once a year.
Okay. How do you manage 250 artists? Are they all over the country?
Most of them are in our area, but I do have folks in 20 different states, and I'm not managing them all at the same time. People go through the process, then they decide if they want extra assistance on particular projects, and after that, they could decide if they want to have quarterly meetings. But everyone is on my roster because I also help them sell their art. So if someone comes to me looking for art, then I pull from my roster, if you wanted, a green abstract painting, who could fit the bill based on your budget and your interests. I get all sorts of requests, like I only want, I'm doing a show and I need lesbian artists, or I only want emerging artists from Maryland, or I only want an artist that has work in their inventory that I can buy tomorrow. So I get all sorts of requests. And sometimes I get art emergencies.
Oh, what's an art emergency? I was going to say, you have a really interesting job. Like, I'm fascinated by what you do.
Thank you.
What's an art emergency?
So I've had a few that I think are quite fun. Not fun for the other people.
Oh, yeah, right. Not fun for the person having the emergency.
Right. But once I had a curator call me who was with a major nonprofit in town, and she said, I just had my show fall through that opens in 2 weeks. Can you help me? And I got 3 artists for her to do a show within 2 weeks, which is like crazy town in terms of the art world. Another time, an art consultant called me at like 9 o'clock at night, and she said, I have a space that I need art for tomorrow. And I knew exactly who to call, like who fit the space, who could make this happen. And so that's the importance of my process to me, is that I know from my roster who can meet the needs of whatever's required for a specific job or emergency or situation.
Okay, tell us one more time how everybody out there can get in touch with you.
Sure, they can find me probably most easily on Instagram at Client Raiser. That's like fundraiser, but Client Raiser, and set up a complimentary session. And whether that's an artist looking for assistance or someone looking to buy art, I have all price points, all media, anything you could ever want, I have access to.
You are that girl. You are the one to know. Thank you so much for spending this time. I learned a lot. I really did not know what your business was before you sat down. I did a little bit of research, of course, on the back end, but I find it fascinating what you're doing. Thank you for all the help that you're giving the artists, particularly the artists in Maryland. We absolutely appreciate the work that you've done, and I hope you get some more business after this.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Thank you.
This podcast is supported in part by the Maryland State Arts Council, an agency of the state of Maryland that plays an essential role in ensuring every Maryland resident has access to the transformative power of the arts. Visit them at msac.org.